Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, what is
Uh,
going on?
Nothing much. Apologies, folks, to the folks that tune in and like to listen in live. We didn't go yesterday. We had a storm out here in the Northeast. I was messing with my connectivity, and I didn't want to risk starting something that we couldn't finish. So I said to Matt, let's just move it to old 2023 time slot on Wednesday night and record. Which I feel like before UFC pay per view pre pick weekend is always better. Um, if we do it the closer to weigh-ins, then
Especially when I'm going.
yeah, especially when you're going, and I mean we already lost a fight, so you know what I mean. So like we may lose more. There might be other shenanigans happening. Today was media day, which I saw. There is a couple of funny things that I saw come up. Um, with as far as Henry Cejudo and the coach change and stuff like that, but we'll get into that. Oh, Antoine is back. What's up, Antoine? What's up, boys? Let's get it. Pay per view weekend and NBA All Star weekend.
Absolutely, got the Lakers hoodie on tonight, so getting ready. They got a game with Utah here in about 30 minutes, so that'll
Oh,
be
right on
catching
time.
up with that after the show. Yeah.
hmm
Um, Yeah, so UFC 298 fight week. You mentioned we lost a fight yesterday, early prelim. Nothing to be too disturbed about, but
hmm
unfortunately, with my history going back to UFC 33 and the main event being changed, I tend to hit a lot of those. So
What
hopefully
was the
that's not
one? What's the one
that
that
was
would
that was
break your
supposed to
balls?
be that was supposed to be Tito and oh, which one recently? I don't know. The first one was supposed to
No,
be Tito and Vitor, and then it turned into Tito and Matashenko, as you can
but
see
the
on the
one
poster
I
right
don't know if it was
there.
when we started this podcast or before, at least we were definitely friends. It was the International Fight Week that Amanda Nunes got the sinus infection. I forget which event that was.
Oh, it was yeah, well, it was that one. I mean, that was UFC 213, 213, I think, 214, right in that range.
Something like that.
It
Yeah.
was something like that. Because coming off 209, I lost Khabib and Ferguson, so I remember it being shortly thereafter for that one. But yeah, the good news is that in the modern era of where we're at with fights, this UFC main card is really really good.
Yeah.
So if we lost one, there is a couple good prelims that could fill in the
hmm
spots. It's not unless catastrophe hits where there's going to be a worthwhile pay per view this weekend, which is awesome. And I'll be in the nosebleeds watching it.
Question from Antoine: before you guys get into it, how do you feel about the card overall pre-breakdown? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you
I
mean
mean, I
by
think
that,
that that's
but
kind of where we're going right now. The cards, I think the card's good. I
hmm
think, I think top to bottom, like I said, I think it's got enough depth on it where, if we lost a main card fight,
hmm
if for instance Jeff Neal fight fell down or fell out, or especially the Anthony Hernandez fight, I think you could move a couple of the prelims into a spot on there
yeah.
and it be successful.
I'll
It's
tell.
it's eight, nine fights deep, I
Yeah.
believe, on this card.
I mean, I definitely just before we started recording, I was telling Matt on the the early prelims, the Fight Pass prelims. There's a fight on that card. Um, it's the very last. It's the third fight on the card for the Fight Pass prelims. Josh Quinlan versus Danny Barlow. I've spoken to Danny Barlow quite a few times. He fought under one of the promotions that are under one of the places I work at, Expectation Sports. That's a guy that you don't want to sleep on. I mean, he's been looking to itching to get into the UFC and show off what he's got. If you didn't see his Contender Series fight, you get a hint of what he's going to bring to the table there. I could see that guy easily coming from the early prelims, main card, and then a pay per view at some point.
7
Yep,
and 0,
yep. It looks like
7
Mr.
and 0.
Willis has heard of him. Yep.
There it is. So yeah, I think like I said, the right now a couple of the prelims that jump out at me. Obviously, it was supposed to be Amanda Lemos and Tatiana Suarez. You know,
hmm
I I'm a fan of Suarez. I think most of us are disappointed that fights seem to fall out. Unfortunately, quite a bit for her with injuries. So hopefully she recovers. But Mackenzie Dern stepping in. Dern took it on the chin in her last fight, but we know what we're going to get with her. We know at least she's going to go out there and make an effort, and her jiu-jitsu special, so there's a chance you're going to see something kind of crazy.
Hmm.
And she's not it's not she's not going to back down, which is good because Lemos is a stand in front of you kind of fighter, so should make for a good fight. I don't necessarily even have a pick on that one. Dern scares me because anytime she can't get the takedown, she can become a punching bag,
Hmm.
although she does potentially have kind of a big overhand right. It's a little bit wild, kind of, I don't say Chuck Liddell style because that's kind of, she's not knocking people out like Chuck Liddell, but same kind of like just a winging overhand right that kind of Chuck Liddell would throw back in the day. Um, and then the heavyweights, Justin Taffa and Rogerio de Lima,
Yeah.
to me is a fight that is likely to end in some kind of highlight.
Yeah, and I feel like lately the pay per views, especially the prelims anyway, they seem to be they haven't. I want to say the last few have not been disappointing. Like maybe the pay per view portion, especially when you get into the co-main event, they kind of get a little decisiony and not as, or I don't want to say controversial, but it just I'm me and Matt are we like finishers, and there are very few. There's a few cards that produce high numbers of finishes, but usually lately the pay per views, the prelims have been super fun to watch. I actually I still get excited for those when they're happening.
Well, and I think the reason you're able to get excited for a lot of those is because it's pay per view, especially the pay per view prelims, because there's a
Hmm.
big crowd. There's people
Hmm.
there. It's not the apex. It's not quiet. It's not
Yeah.
just the half percenters that can afford to spend $1,000 to go sit and
Yeah.
watch a regional card. So
Unless you enter a slap fight contest, you buy tickets for slap and then you get entered to win seats with Dana White at the pay per view. As long as you make sure you let him know you watch slap.
yeah, didn't catch slap five. Didn't catch that one. Maybe maybe we'll someday, but missed it this past weekend or whenever it was.
Yeah.
Um, but let's move to the main card. Do you have the graphics
Yes,
ready
I
there, Ed?
do. Actually, that's what, I'll get those up right now. Hold on. Um, it's trending. Wow, it's actually on the UFC's page, UFC.com, and not a slap promo. So that's a good sign. Here we go. Yes, 298. Here we go. Volkanovski versus Topuria.
All right. Now
Main card.
let's get into the challenge that is the UFC website
Hmm.
with their fights here. Main card kicks off. Anthony Hernandez, Roman Kobilov. Hernandez 11-2, Kopylov 12-2. Um, Good fight, fun fight.
Hernandez, the LFA
Uh,
guy, right? Yeah.
yep,
Ain't he the guy came
uh,
from LFA?
I believe so. He's been around for quite
Mm-hmm.
a while in the UFC as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this fight, back and forth, banger. Um, it's kind of hard to pick. I mean, I'm honest. I lean Hernandez. He's got the better wins. I think he's going to win. I actually think he's I think it's going to be a back and forth fight, but I think we either get a real exciting decision or perhaps like a late, second round, mid third round, somewhere in the third round finish for Hernandez.
Yeah.
Perhaps some ground and pound after, just kind of beating him up. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth in this fight, though. I think both guys
Mm-hmm.
are going to get tagged up well.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. What are the odds on? I want to see. Oh, that they don't have odds up for them. So let's move on to this fight. Is actually one I'm actually kind of more excited for this fight. Merab Dvalishvili against Henry Cejudo, for obvious reasons. I am a fan of Cejudo, but on his rise up as a when he was in the flyweight days, and then Dvalishvili's a Matt Serra guy, and I just spoke with one of the fights that we got going on this weekend on Spectation Sports, Mecca 21. Devin Loze, who's a flyweight, trained with Devashvili like 2 weeks ago at 10th Planet Las Vegas, and said, the guy talk about pressure. This guy Devashvili is one of those guys, and I'm just a fan of his constant pace when he fights. I'll let you go first before. I mean, I think folks know where I'm leaning, but I'll let you go. And
No, this is a cool fight.
yeah,
Henry Cejudo, you mentioned LFA the last time. He's from Legacy. He
Mm-hmm.
had one of his early fights in Legacy before there was
Mm-hmm.
the merge between Legacy and Resurrection Fighting
Mm-hmm.
Championship, creating LFA. Um, the and Davishvili is cool because we were kind of on his bandwagon a long time ago with him being from your neck of the woods. It was early in his UFC career that I think both of us really noticed that there was uh, something different about the guy. So
Yeah.
the fact that we've kind of got to watch his rise up, and although he's beat some guys like Aldo and some guys that I didn't necessarily want him to beat, his persistence in that cage is something that is really on another level up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
This is really the test of like, I mean, this is like the ultimate test for him. I would imagine an Olympic wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
um, a former two division UFC champion. I mean, this is a chance to really kind of vault himself into a different level of stardom. And really demand a title shot to, with Cejudo's name out there,
Mm-hmm.
and how many people know him. So um, Whew. I don't think
Yeah.
this is gonna be like a fight you're gonna want to watch on replay a bunch of times over and over again. I think there's gonna be some grime to it. I don't think it's gonna be real pretty.
Mm.
I don't think anybody's getting knocked out. I think it's gonna be a test of wills, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Dashvili because I don't know if Cejudo. I don't know where he's at mentally. I don't know, first time not fighting in a main event for him for in a long time. He's already talking retirement if he loses. If that's already in your head, I
Mm-hmm.
wonder kind of where you're
And he's
at.
already retired. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's already retired once, so there was already a time where he felt like he didn't really want to hang around anymore. Um, I just think that the pressure for Marab might be too
Mm.
much. Enough to win 2 out of 3 rounds, and perhaps even get kind of beat up for a round. Perhaps have a round where he gets reversed and gets taken down, and you know what I mean. Like there to me, like there's that, but I think for the most part, there's going to be a, a lot of clashing wrestling, takedown attempts. I do favor Cejudo with his punch. He's proven
Yeah.
it more, but I just think. I think Marab pulls off a not so spectacular, but I think he pulls off the win here.
Yeah, shout out to Nolan King dropping donuts in the comments from X. Antoine actually asked a really good question here. How did you guys feel Henry allegedly firing his coach on camera? I wanted to bring that up, so I'm glad you did. Thank you, Antoine. He said it was a prank, but come on. Yeah, I mean, it was weird to even do it. I don't understand. This is the thing that bothers me about Cejudo. His social media, like, I don't know if he's trying to be funny or what, but I mean, when you have a platform like that, I suppose you're gonna try to do whatever you can and throw stuff up and see what sticks. And if that was a prank, I mean, I didn't believe it because they shot it. That's not something you do. Something like that. If you're gonna fire someone from something that they've done for a long time, you don't want to make that public. That's number one that I didn't believe it. And then when I saw clips from media day, them walking in to do their stuff, um, I saw he and Cejudo were wearing the same like tracksuits, and I'm like, okay, if you're not on each other's team anymore, why are you there? Why are you dressed the same? So the whole thing is just, it's just I don't understand it, but call it maybe I guess that's mental warfare on Cejudo's part, but I don't know. I mean, to your point though, Matt, I mean, shenanigans aside, when you look at the athleticism and skill of both guys, I don't think Cejudo's definitely the toughest test Devashvili has. I feel like Devashvili can pull off a decision win, um, but you can never. I keep thinking about when Cejudo beat was it Marlon Moraes that he beat with the torn ankle or messed up ankle. He fought with an injury and won convincingly, and that's Olympic stuff. Olympians do shit like that. Not you're not even pro athletes don't do stuff. Like there's athletes that get hurt and they're like, I'm done. I'm like, and this guy hides an injury that you can't really walk with, and that's Olympian stuff. So this is the fight again. Like of all the fights on this pay per view, this is the one that I'm kind of most excited to watch. But I'm with you. I think Devash really can pull off a decision. I don't think he finishes him.
Yeah, it's one of mine. I don't know if it's the one I'm looking most forward to, just because I don't think it's going to be the most exciting fight. But
Hmm.
I think it has the fight that there's a lot. I mean, other than the title fight, I kind of think that this is the most important fight on the card, um, as far as what can where the winner goes from here. Basically, it's title shot for the winner.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty fair to say for both of the guys. Cejudo's not going to take another fight against the top contender. Looks like the odds are
he's
kind of with
yeah,
us. It looks like about a 2-1 favorite, according to the current odds on the UFC website. Um, yeah,
which they
we'll
I think
see.
they're still
We'll see.
favorites.
It's a meaningful fight. It's two guys that I'm glad they agreed to fight each other.
Hmm.
This fight could have been a fight that never happened. You know what I mean? They could have easily kind of sat on the sideline, picked an easier fight, or even waited for title shots. Really.
Yeah, this is like an old school. Like I feel like this is like just this is actually there's number two and number three on the UFC rankings, and it's just like it's something that we would have seen on the Fox era of the UFC when fights that mattered happen. Like this is a fight that really matters. It's nothing drummed up from popularity or social media. It's just two guys that literally are ranked right next to each other, and fuck it, they make them fight, and I love it. Jeff Neal, Jeff Neal versus Ian Machado Gary. I mean this is talking about social media stuff. Gary's the favorite, and Neal's plus 200 underdog in this fight. I'll let you go with your breakdown on this. I'm kind of split on it. So.
I am. I'm going with Gary to win. I think he's going to win by knockout. I think he wins by knockout in like the later in the fight.
Hmm.
Um, I he's undefeated.
Hmm.
So that carries some weight with me because you're undefeated. Especially when you get to 13-0, and he's got um, some good wins in the UFC already. Um, Neil went tough against Rakhmonov in his last fight
Hmm.
um, at UFC 285. Seems like a while ago now. Um, and he also has some nice wins. Man, I think it's good. I think this is like the first fight in a sense. I think you're going to get two guys in there who there's going to be a lot of opportunities for both guys to hurt each other,
Hmm.
and I think it's just going to be a matter of think. I like Gary's size.
Yeah.
He's got some size, which I think is
Yeah.
going to
It looks
pay
like he's got
because
a reach advantage and
I think he's going to throw a lot of
height
straight punches,
advantage.
and I think that reach is going to come into factor.
Hmm.
I just we're going to find out if he's kind of special. You know what I mean? When you're 13-0 and you're fighting a guy like Neil, to me that this is going to tell kind of the story of Gary. We've brought up other cases where kind of the youngster, the up and comer fights a guy that is a little bit of a step up and
Yeah.
gets squashed and has to rebound. So I mean, there could be a tale of two stories. The minus 245 money line for Gary kind of is where my head's at. Like I
Hmm.
said, I'm thinking early third round TKO, maybe a dot, even a just I think there's going to be some damage on both guys, but I
Hmm.
really, I really think that Gary probably pulls this one out.
Yeah, I think he. I mean, they have some stats on the website where they show their win by stats, and the decision is what I'm thinking for Gary, just because of what Neil brings to the table. Because again, this is like you said, this could be a guy that could shut him down because he's got the experience to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Rachmanov took to the third, late into the
Hmm.
fight to be able to finally secure a choke win in that fight. So
Hmm.
we move to the main event. I think this is the fight I'm most excited for.
Whitaker and Costa,
Yeah,
co-main.
Costa's not going to put up a. I don't. For me, Costa's like a pride fighter. First of all, take that. However you want to take that, and uh, so and like I got to see him fight Romero, so that fight's in my mind always as just a um, back and forth, brawl. I saw Whitaker and
Hmm.
Romero fight actually too. Also a good fight. The one where Whitaker uh, won more convincingly the second fight. Um, I just think that this fight is just again, a fight that I didn't expect to see necessarily. Maybe it's because Costa doesn't fight a lot. It doesn't seem like, uh, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
but I just to me this is a fun.
yeah,
Like I said, it's kind of a pride fight for me. It's all it's basically Australia versus uh, Brazil, and
yeah.
I just
It's
I think it's gonna be cool. So I'm gonna pick Whitaker just because I think he's a better mixed martial artist, and
yeah,
I actually think he won the last fight he had with Adesanya, and could have became a multiple time champion. But Costa brings some craziness
yeah.
and wild man and a punch that I think makes this just a fun fight.
And but that's the
Either
thing though,
way.
like depending if you pick Costa, if you're gonna be if what let me look at these odds again because if you're a betting person and he's plus 170, so you say you want to do get that plus 170 so some underdog parlay you're trying to do, like Costa's the guy that could win it for you or he could fuck it up because it depends on the Paulo Costa that shows up when the cage door closes that night, and like like you
I
mentioned
feel
his
like if I
power.
was gonna bet on him, I would just bet on Costa to win by knockout.
Mm,
Like I that's how because I don't I mean I don't think he's gonna submit him, and I
no,
don't think he goes 3 rounds and wins a decision. I
yeah,
just I don't I know he did against Romero in a very very close fight, but I don't necessarily see that. So I kind of feel like the only way he does it is if he clips Whitaker and kind
yeah.
of puts him on on easy street and then eventually catches him and finishes him on the ground. But
Yeah. But you said
that's
you're going Whitaker for this?
I'm going Whitaker.
Hmm.
I just think he's a bad dude. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I agree. Um and then the main event. Oh boy, Volkanovski versus Topuria. Man, oh man.
You know it's a pretty good card, and it's
Hmm.
there's some good decent matchmaking when the hardest fight to pick is probably the main event.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
at least the hardest one to, you know, I don't it's a good sign. I mean, you're looking forward to something. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, no, that's a very good point about the him coming off of his loss to
Oh,
DDP.
about
So
Whitaker's chin that
yeah,
Whitaker's finding.
we'll
Yeah.
see how he recovers. That's a good point.
Hmm.
But getting back to the main event, 14-0 Topuria, 26-3 Volkanovski. Um, man, uh, you know, I I've seen Volkanovski fight a bunch. Luckily, I've seen him
Yeah.
fight Holloway and Ortega and even going back to when he fought Mendez. So I've been lucky and seen his rise to kind of this and some of his great title defenses and title wins. Um, but he's had 2 losses in a row
Yeah.
to Islam Makhachev at 155. The last one via head kick, essentially head kick
Hmm.
knockout. Topuria 14-0. Kind of the wild man from Germany. I I've been back and forth so much on this, and I'm gonna go with the champion. I feel like I've seen this in back in the day with kind of like Randy Couture when he fought Gonzaga, for example. And I know it's going aging, but UFC 74 and and uh, and feeling thinking that the new kid on the block was going to do it, and then he
Hmm.
gets schooled. And I don't know if we're going to see a schooling, but I if we get vintage Volkanovski, I feel like we could. Um,
So my concern with this fight for Volkanovski is that because like you said the first thing you said is I've seen him fight a bunch. We've all seen Volkanovski fight a lot. And that interview he did after the loss to Islam, was very telling as far as like he's one of those guys. You always hear about these having to protect these fighters from themselves, and he's one of those guys that he's not going to know when to retire. He's not going to know when to stop because I mean he admitted that he just has to go. Like he's got to be training. He needs a cycle of to be in camp and have a fight, a date signed up, and all that stuff. So he's 35, and Topuria is 27. So 35 is that, in combat sports, when you hit when you hit 30, you're like in your prime, and you got some good years with it. 35 is halfway to 40, and 40 is considered old for combat sports, for pro sports altogether. I think, unless you're playing golf, walking around, or pickleball, or with some other old man shit. You know what I mean? So I'm like and Antoine's chiming in with the I'm extremely nervous for this main event, and with every exchange, and that's what I'm trying to get. My point is all the damage, these high profile fights that Volkanovski climbed up and got to, and then fought, including the Islam ones. I'm wondering how much of that damage he's carrying as at 35 into this fight. This is going to be the fight where I think we see that either he's he hits a wall because he's doing too much, or because he's had a proper camp and preparation. He shuts down Topuria, like you said, Matt. So this is the fight that's going to tell us that. Because I still have faith in, I really like Volkanovski. I love how he came from rugby and who Lord knows what kind of damage he got playing a sport like that and brought into MMA. So I don't know how his body's holding it together right now, but if he can win convincingly at this fight, I think the Volkanovski that we all know and love is still there, and probably can get a third one in with Islam. But in the meantime, I'm leaning Volkanovski, but I think if Topuria catches him with something that rattles his skull a little bit, it might lead to the end too. So it can go either way, but I want Volkanovski to win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I brought up the kind of the old beating the new, um, but I don't necessarily think we're going to see Volkanovski spanking Topuria in the cage.
Yeah.
But I could see him going back, reverting back to some wrestling and trying to do some of that. Um, but I'm gonna go with Volkanovski winning a close decision, actually, like 3 rounds to 2. I think we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get one where there's gonna be some rounds where he's gonna look good, and there's some rounds where he gets beat up, and I think that's where we're gonna end up.
Yeah, because Topuria didn't get there because he's fucking. We got cool tattoos. He put in work and he showed us a lot there.
Oh, no
That's why.
doubt, no
Yeah, I
doubt.
mean
I mean,
that's why
like
the
I said,
fight's
I was on
happening.
the
Yeah.
fence. 2 weeks ago, if we had done this podcast, I was leaning more towards him. I just, as it gets closer, I don't. I feel like Volkanovski, although he's coming off those 2 losses out of his weight class, I still feel like we're talking about an all-time great. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sign him off too early.
Yeah.
Um, and I that's where I think we're at. But it's exactly like you said. This is where we find out. I mean,
Yeah. Cause,
He could win this fight and go on to win 10 more in a row. He could lose this fight, and his career basically is on a lifeline, when with 3 losses in a row. So, um, there's a lot to
yeah.
be told.
Yeah. And if he says he would have to turn around and fight another killer, Antoine Willis chimes in. But
Yeah,
I
it
mean
never
that
stops.
that's what happens when you carry that belt around, man. Everybody,
It's what
the
happens when you carry the belt around and you're
yeah.
willing to fight. Some guys just carry the belt around.
Especially in the ESPN era UFC, you ain't fucking lying, boy. Oh boy, ooh,
you
we
know,
could we could go off on quite a few characters with the carrying belts around and not fighting for them.
I mean, you figure Volkanovski might be carrying around some damage, but he's not out there, spearing, you know, people, a
Yep.
couple months after a torn pec, right? Or a
Yeah.
torn
A
tricep or
torn
whatever the hell.
something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Torn unicorn. Something. Like fantasy shit. So
Speaking of more fantasy shit, UFC 300 main event. Um, I was leaning Super Bowl. I thought this, but then it dawned on me like there's no way the UFC is going to spend that much money on a commercial. Not anymore.
those commercials were ass too. Not for nothing. Half the commercials told you to go online. Like there, here's a commercial. Here's this thing. Go check it out online. Like,
Yeah, but then we hear what yesterday
I don't know anymore.
from from Dana
Howie
White.
Mandel.
Not Howie Mandel, the one man Dana White didn't want to talk to about
Yeah.
the anything.
Uh,
But yeah, apparently they're going to do it at the post-fight press conference. Let me also say I don't believe that. I believe it's going to happen during the pay-per-view broadcast. I think there'll be a
yeah,
surprise announcement. Um,
yeah, yeah.
or here's the thing: if we get it at the post-fight press conference, like Dana White says, it's Belial and Edwards. He just doesn't want to deal with the backlash of the
Because
entire
it's
his entire
yeah,
pay-per-view being spammed with, you know, people complaining about it. But I still expect a surprise announcement in the, at some
yeah. During
point.
the broadcast, yeah, yeah. Like with the pay per view halfway through, like they do that a lot too.
They
So
did it
have.
with Brock and Mark Hunt at
Hmm.
at 199, the event there. I was there and that came on the screen, and I'm sure it's the exact same thing they showed on TV pay per view, and it was Brock basically coming back.
Hmm.
Um, the so I think that there's something, but I really at this point, I, nothing. I just can't. I think Fight Oracle basically posted it best when he said the only thing that would make him excited is if it was Fedor. And at this
Yeah,
point, I'm kind of in that same boat, even though I really don't want to even see that.
yeah.
Um, like I don't even know what. I mean, Dana White's talking about how he can make a movie about this. I mean, either the big top, Circus Vargas is at an all-time level, or there's going to be a surprise announcement of something that apparently will,
Like
make people
G,
happy.
like it's not going to be like GSP versus Khabib or nothing like
No, I don't
that.
think we're going to get
Yeah.
that, but my prediction's always been Diaz and McGregor coming out of nowhere, but
Hmm.
I felt like that would have been the one that they would have paid for a Super Bowl ad for, because they know
Yeah.
they can make it up with the McGregor money.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Without that, that's why it leads me to believe we're leaning somewhere else. Um,
Question from Antoine. Side note: if they were to make Jones versus Aspinall, who would you guys have? I don't know, man. I feel like John Jones has like a contract with the devil or something. The dude just every
I
time I think there's somebody that could beat him, something like even like when he fought what's his name Reyes. I thought Reyes had what it took to beat him, or not Reyes. Maheta was it Maheta that blew both his knees when he fought
yeah,
him?
Santos. Yep.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's like I thought that guy had what it took, and I'm watching him throw kicks and not spin, not pivot on the ball. I saw when he tore up his own knees throwing kicks, and I'm like, what a pro fighter? How do you screw up your technique that you injure both knees in the like? That's what I'm saying. The dude's got like it's like the fucking Ghost Rider shit, like it's weird to me.
yeah.
I all that to say it's
I've
hard for me
paid
to
to
predict.
watch John Jones a lot of times,
Yeah.
but I he's not one of my favorite fighters. I think I probably made that clear on here. I mean, there's Madashenko Jones, one of his first, I believe his first main event he ever did. I went to it in San Diego.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been following Jones' career for a long, long time. I've probably seen him fight live close to 10 times now. But so to answer your question, I probably would pick Jones just because he wins every time. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like I do believe that everybody has one coming eventually. The
Hmm.
longer you hang around, unless you dip out like, Khabib at a fairly early age, and before you go through the Volkanovski run per se, of fighting every couple months,
Hmm.
and not that's not to discount Nurmagomedov. To
Hmm.
me, again, another, possibly best fighter we've ever seen, but
Hmm.
level guy. But uh, I think Aspinall brings a lot of problems to the table. Um,
Hmm.
but I would pick Jones just because I've never seen him really lose. And if I say that about the other undefeated guys, it's the same. It's the same. But yeah. So um, I don't know where we're at for the 300, but we should find out. Um, Fighters have not been given like their order forms for tickets. I can confirm that. Um, so usually that's given out like a week prior.
Hmm.
It sounds like tickets are going to go on Fight Club sale on on Wednesday, the 21st, is what the most recent date shows. So that would tell me that we would have to have an announcement for sure this Saturday by this
Hmm.
Saturday night. And they'll do a quick turnaround on pre-orders, and then tickets
Jesus
will go on
Christ,
sale.
Antoine, making us feel old. He's telling us he was born in '99 and found MMA at 12. What was it like seeing John go from 21 to 35 like that? I'll tell you what makes me feel old is I remember when he won the title here in Newark, and the week that he had, he stopped a crime that happened. Some lady, some purse snatcher grabbed a purse, and Jones was like warming up in the park, and he chased down the guy and held him for the cops to come. That was before we found out that he was into cocaine and running down pregnant ladies and stuff like that because it was when he beat Shogun for the title. So it was definitely one of the finer moments in combat sports. One of the better times in combat sports it's one of the reasons that it's hard to not want to watch John Jones. I think of stuff like that. I know about all the other stuff, but like you said, with as far as asking for the pick too, like it's hard to pick against him. The guy has just done stuff that's again, it's got to be some sort of deal with the devil or something.
Jesus, in '99, what you were doing karate, and I was
Yeah.
trying to avoid headbutts while training, no holds barred, with UFC fighters back then. God
Mm-hmm.
dang, that is it's a flashback. But yeah, I mean, amazing career. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
amazing career.
That's why
You
I
know,
feel
I wish he would have made some other decisions that would have, I wish he would have fought Sonnen on short notice at 151.
yeah.
I wish he would have maybe even given Henderson a fight when Dan Henderson came back from his injury. There's a couple things that, and not that Henderson wasn't, super high
Like
ranked
we never got to
necessarily at the
see him
time.
in Rumble. That was one I really wanted.
There was some fights that I wish he would have done. I feel like he took some time off due to, you know whatever reason it was. Um,
Legalities
the
whatever.
picogram thing is weird. Although it moved to UFC from Vegas and to,
Yeah.
60 miles up the road from me. So, I kind of thank John Jones for that one. But at the same time, like, it just some ups and downs. UFC 200, we both bought tickets for that. Finding out
Jesus
at
Christ.
hour, 72
Talk
hours,
about a life-changing summer.
I mean, so stuff like that. But for the most part, his domination. Also, another reason he beat Shogun. If you've ever go back or old shows, or I don't know how long you've listened, but I'm Pride Never Die. Fedor, Shogun, Vanderlei. Those are my guys. So, um, and he whooped Shogun. So it was kind of hard to swallow. But I mean, all time great, and I remember the fact that I've seen so much is amazing.
Yeah, he's bringing up. Willis is bringing up his. He's agreeing with you. Lost his Nike endorsement. Could have been the Michael Jordan, Tom Brady of MMA. Yeah, and I think we still kind of like need that guy. We need like the American, like, because we have, Khabib's obviously iconic in his own one sense, but it'd be nice to have a homegrown American fighter that can fit that bill. Canada's got GSP. I'm just like, who's our guy?
It
Like,
was Chuck Liddell.
yeah,
It was
I
Chuck
guess
Liddell,
so.
Randy Couture. Those were the American guys in
Yeah,
the formative years of the UFC.
yeah. There's a 30
Um,
for 30 on them, right? There's the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, well, Chuck and Tito. Um,
Chuck and Tito.
but Tito wasn't exactly, he wouldn't be your ideal poster boy necessarily. Not in 2024, certainly. In 1998, 99, 2000, he was gold, but
Mm-hmm.
not so much now. Uh, yeah, I don't, who's going to be the next one, and American fighter. I'm sure that there's some out there we're just not thinking of. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we don't really have that icon. But it goes back to us complaining, and again, and us going back and talking about how the UFC really struggles, in my perspective, to create the superstars like they used to in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that the logo UFC has taken over more than ever before the what is actually taking more than takes over the guys in the cage. When
Yeah,
Dana
and you
when
know,
Dana White's the most famous UFC guy, UFC person, that's that I mean it's
yeah,
been that way for a while now, but that
it's
just
been
kind of
like that
tells
for
you.
a while. But it's funny that because you just reminded me, and I wanted to mention it last week, or it might have happened between last when we recorded last week and this week. You know, Vince Russo has a podcast, and he went off on this rant about the WWE and pretty much everything you said. Like the wrestlers don't exist no more; it's just a brand. And you and I said that this is what they had to look forward to when they announced the TKO thing back last fall. Like we knew this was coming for them. So when I saw him do that, and he said he talked about the corporate structure and everything, I'm like, it's been like that for us since 2016, 2017 already, and it's just gotten worse. And Curtis, Chris Curtis was just saying something on social media that I chimed in because he was defending Adesanya and the heat that he's getting for taking some time off just to kind of check himself mentally and just being the champion and fighting so much. Like he deserves to take it. I personally like that he's doing that because then we'll all miss him, and when he comes back, it'll be fantastic. But people were giving Adesanya crap over that, and it's because of the era that we're in, where if you do something like that, where the brand outweighs what the fighter is doing, and not the other way around. It's not like that in boxing. Like you don't hear people talking about, man, that top rank. I gotta get me a top rank T-shirt.
No, exactly.
So
Exactly. You're gonna
so
watch Top Rank tonight? Um,
yeah.
yeah, no,
So
but yeah, exactly. I mean, it's exactly that. And the McGregor broke it. McGregor taught them to never do that again. It
yeah.
never let a fighter become bigger than
Oh
the
yeah, because
UFC,
he got the fight that he
because
wanted with Mayweather.
McGregor
Yeah.
became bigger than the UFC. That's why he doesn't have to
Hmm.
necessarily fight now. That's why he got to fight Floyd Mayweather. That's
Hmm.
why he got to call all his shots. That's why he gets to fight who he wants to fight. That's why, the only thing that surprises me is he hasn't forced a fight to happen in Ireland. But
Hmm.
other than that, he basically calls the shots, and the UFC unfortunately just doesn't like that. Never really have, but you
Might
know,
change in April with that
I mean, there
antitrust
was guys
lawsuit.
like we mentioned
We'll
Tito in
see.
the past who really stirred the pot, but there
Hmm.
wasn't the money going around now. That was arguing over like
That's
three,
the
four
thing.
hundred
Like,
thousand dollars. Now we're talking tens of
mhm,
millions of dollars, hundreds of millions
yeah.
of dollars.
But even back then, with the whole Tito versus Dana thing happened, like Dana White brings that up a lot because there's a lot of fighters that try to push that envelope, and Dana White will bring that up and say, like, there's always going to be someone, there's always going to be another Tito, another, Connor or whatever. But I don't think he counted on fandom becoming what it was with Connor. Like, I mean, if UFC 189, man, in
Yep,
Vegas that summer, that 2015, that was, I've never seen anything like that in my life. And then when he came to the Garden, it was the same thing in New York City for UFC 205, like when he won against
yep.
Alvarez. It was just I don't see anything like that.
I thought I was in Ireland. I tweeted out or I posted out on the forums when that event ended, and I was
Hmm.
walking out of that event. When that fight, first of all, I thought I was in Ireland when he beat Mendez at 189.
Yeah,
Between Sinead O'Connor and and the crowd and the beers flying in the air when he won that fight. And then 205 was on another level. Walking outside, and they made the MSG they did in the colors of the Irish flag.
yeah.
Um, it was, and it was cheering and chanting and singing, and uh, I mean, literally, I felt like it was. I felt
Yeah.
like I couldn't imagine really walking out of an event in Ireland and it
To shut
feeling any
down
different.
Fifth and Seventh Avenue
Yep,
were like dead stop because of the UFC's coming to town with him.
yep.
So it's crazy. You got friends? No, the UFC's haters. They don't like anybody running away with a bag like that. Maybe when he's old, maybe when he's like 70, they'll induct him to the UFC Hall of Fame if it's still around. But yeah.
Well, until I see Frank Shamrock, Tim Sylvia, bunch
Hmm.
of other guys that you know you can't.
You can't
That's
walk out. You can't.
all you can do is judge him when it happened,
Mm-hmm.
when the events happened. You can't look back and go, ah, hey, well, after he defended the belt 3 times, he lost 4 fights. He was a 3-time UFC heavyweight champion, stuff like that. So grudges be held with the UFC Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's a lot of guys that should be in there. There's a lot of guys recently that are getting in more because of, I would say, being company guys as opposed to necessarily having massive Hall of Fame resumes. Um, in my world, he would still be borderline, if I'm being honest. In my world, he would still have to win a couple huge fights to really solidify a Hall of Fame level. But my level of Hall of Fame is probably higher
Mm,
than a lot of people. To me, if he defended the belt like 2 or 3 times,
yeah.
and if he had one more mega fight and then we're start talking. If he beat John Jones, he would be an instant Hall of Famer. If he beat Aspinall, and maybe Pavlovich,
Mm-hmm.
maybe those two guys, he becomes an instant Hall of Famer. But to me, like, he would have to. I don't see anybody that he's going to beat in MMA if he fights ever MMA again. That's really going to add a ton to his resume where he's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Bader, everybody's going to say it's a 205er who's too old.
Yeah.
And the PFL guys, most people just don't know.
Yeah. Awesome marketing that they have there.
Yeah, that
but
pay per view's next weekend, by the way.
yeah, 24th. Man, this not for nothing. There's a lot of fights this weekend and next weekend between
Have they
the
said how we watch that pay per view yet?
I think it's ESPN. I don't know. I know the Zone is one of the distributors. I have to look at the last press release for Belfast. So, no, I don't know what their
I
U.S.
can't remember.
broadcast.
No, it was the Bellator. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was through ESPN pay per view. But Bellator, we were waiting for a broadcast
U.S.
announcement.
broadcast. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that has not come
No, no. I'm pretty sure it's
yet.
going to be Fubo Sports, but we'll see.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that about does it. We do have a couple other events this weekend, though. Um, BKFC Prospect Series
Mm-hmm.
Friday. Fubu Sports, YouTube, BKFC app, free everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So Friday night, tailgating prior to UFC. You've got BKFC, and we've got one Friday night fights. Um,
One
some
championship
really good
on Amazon
Muay Thai
Prime.
and kickboxing card.
Mm-hmm.
That's, and those fights are always fun. I don't necessarily know what's going on with one right now, um, especially with the North Cut thing coming out, and about half of their roster, their most famous fighters, liking his his takedown
Yeah,
of one championship was kind of odd, uh, but uh, but the
but yeah,
product aside
a
is
good
awesome to watch.
good primer for on Friday night, 8 p.m. Amazon Prime. Make sure you use our link to sign up for Prime if you don't have it. And again, I mentioned the Mecca 21 from Ignite fights Saturday. I know a lot of folks will be watching the UFC, but if you feel like watching the future, some future guys come up in this sport. Mecca 21 is on Spectation Sports, and you can see some of my content there. I interviewed the vacant flyweight title on the line there, and I interviewed one of the contenders, Devin Loze. So please check that out when you can.
Absolutely. Fans can check out the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbizol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a good night.
Peace.